next tutorial we'll be moving on is to explore the code structure of the Next.js boilerplate. So I will be using npx to create the next boilerplate. So I'll be also using the minus TypeScript flag. So that will give me a version of the app in TypeScript. But if you're not familiar with TypeScript, you can ignore that flag, and the app will be available in JavaScript. So I'm using TypeScript for this tutorial, and I will call the app my app. We see that the install takes a bit of time, but as soon as the app is available, we can explore it. So that opens my IDE. So I'm using Visual Studio Code for the tutorial, and the first thing we will be checking is the tsconfig. So we see that Next.js gives us a default configuration for Next.js, but you can change it whenever you want if there are any options that you want to change. If we move into package.json, we see that Next.js provides us with 4 commands. So the first command is to run the app in dev mode. The second command is to build the app. So this command runs lean as part of it, and also build the assets for the Next.js app. We use npm start to run the application, and we can also run lean that comes out of the box with Next.js. So this is a feature which has been recently introduced, and I find it very interesting, since usually I had to configure my own projects for ESLint and provide my own configuration. So Next.js now provides its own lean with an opinionated configuration that I like, since it limits me on the mistakes that I can do in terms of configuration. And as I said before, it runs as part of the build command, but if you want to change it, you can move into Next.config. So that's the configuration file that you use to manage your next app, and yeah, we will explore it in a later phase. The 3 main directories that we will be checking is pages, public, and styles. So the first one we'll be checking is pages, and as we see, it has an index.tsx file, an underscore app, and an API directory. So if I run npm run dev, that will run the app in dev mode, and the app is running by default on import 3000. So if I put both of my windows side by side, we see that we get a nice view of Next.js homepage, and that code is available into index.tsx. Next.js follows a different direction in terms on how you create pages in your app. So all your pages will be available into the pages directory. So for example, if you want to create a new page, so that would be a new tsx. So in that case, I will be creating an about page, and I will set a boilerplate of my React components. So that will be about, and pay attention that your files needs to export a React component, and that page will be available with the same name that you set the file. So in my case, it will be under /about, and we see that we get the page. The other directory that we'll be exploring is API. So that creates HTTP endpoints which follow a RESTful convention, and that one of the endpoints that will be available is that hello file, and returns a 200 status code with that payload. If you want to access it, then the endpoint will be available in /API and the name of the file. So in that case, it will be hello. So we see that we get the payload of that response. Next, we will be moving into public directory. So these provide Next.js runs a static file server by default, and all the files available in public directory will be served publicly. So if we, for example, we have two files at the moment. So if I try to access both of them, we see that I get the favicon, and if I goes versus svg, I get the versal icon. And if I create a new file, let's call it robots.txt, so that will be used from web crawlers to index our page. I will set default options. So this means that the app will be, all the pages will be indexed by a web crawler, but the most important thing is that we can access that file through the name of the file that we created. So we see that we have access to the content, and the last directory is styles. So by default, Next.js comes with CSS and CSS modules. However, I won't be diving too much into it since I personally use CSS in JavaScript, and my preference is to use tools such as style components and emotion styles. So this is what I will be sharing in a later tutorial, but yeah, I'm just raising that the default configuration comes with CSS, and you can import those files within your application. A few other things that we can check is the ESLint file. So we see that it comes with and it extends over the lint configuration of Next.js theme. And yeah, that's pretty much what's available to us.